want to talk about happiness. There's this really great book called The How of Happiness that I love by Sonia Lyubomirsky. I love her name. She's very profound. And she talks about how her research indicates that a lot of us are pretty depressed. We have a hard time being happy. She says we have expectations about how our life should be, and that our individualistic culture where we feel kind of alone and disconnected can be challenging, and that some people experience things like job insecurity or relationship insecurity, food insecurity, health insecurity, all the insecurities that come about, and that we also are persistently individualistic, that the social fabric and fiber of our culture sometimes encourages us to do it on our own, and that all these things can challenge us around happiness. And so we can feel depressed, unhappy. And it's nothing to be ashamed of, that everyone goes through it. And in fact, she talks about how we're all born with a genetic predisposition to a certain degree of happiness. So she would say her research shows 40% of our happiness is already predetermined, already a part of our genetic makeup. That's interesting to me. Then the rest, she says, we can create on our own, that we have the ability to move forward and experience greater happiness. But we have to let go of some of the myths that keep us from experiencing happiness. And some of them include things like, well, everybody else is happy and I'm just unusually sad. That there's just something wrong with me, but everybody else has a degree of happiness that I don't have. And I would say, and she would say, that's just not true, that every person experiences periods of unhappiness, dissatisfaction, frustration, and upset, and that we have to persist in moving through the challenges that we face, recognizing that we all go through ups and downs. She also says that one other myth is that happiness will come if we can just change our circumstances. I like that one. If I could just change what's going on for me. And she talks about something that I found fascinating in her book, Hedonic adaptation. And it's equivalent to, let's say I live here in Colorado, and many of you do also, but here in Colorado, let's say that it's very cold and I'm freezing and I come inside and the heater is on and it feels so good for a little while, and I get warmed by it, and then all of a sudden I'm too hot. I'm just way too hot. And so going from that kind of cold to that kind of heat is hedonic adaptation, and that we get used to conditions and circumstances in our lives such that we kind of lose our appreciation after a while. We have children and we're overjoyed at having this new child in our life, and then as that being gets integrated into our experience, we might not necessarily be unhappy to have the child, but we get used to having the child. And that being becomes a part of our normal everyday life. And so we get to understand that part of creating happiness is busting these myths, busting that preconceived notion that everybody else must be happier than me, and being willing to be appreciative, to take formal times in our living to pause and appreciate what we have. And so that connects me to gratitude exercises, the willingness to spend time every day of my life looking around at my normal conditions, my normal circumstances, and being willing to declare my willingness to appreciate something that's somewhat routine in my life. That happiness can be something that I can cultivate, that I can claim. And so that's a part of her myth busting too, is that we can all contribute to a greater degree of happiness in our everyday living. And so appreciation, just gave one clue right there, being willing to pause and be appreciative. Hey, I'd like to do that right now. I'm going to just take a moment. Why don't you join me in just taking a moment, looking around. What is in my environment that I really appreciate? Oh, I'm looking at some beautiful pictures of children with happy faces, and I appreciate every single one of them, and that they've been a part of our beautiful church over the years as I'm sitting here in the lobby of one of our buildings. I'm appreciating air conditioning on this hot day. Oh my gosh, I am so appreciating air conditioning. And those things can bring a greater joy and happiness to my life. And the other thing I think we get to do is we get to claim and own our own happiness. We get to understand that we contribute to that other 60%, and that if we're doing things in our life that give us happiness, that we contribute to our own experience of joy and happiness. Here's a confession that I have. I had brunch with a friend a few weeks ago, a longtime friend, and we hadn't seen each other for a very long time. And she looked at me with her beautiful eyes, her piercing eyes, and she said, "Michelle, what's bringing you joy these days?" And the truth is, the week before I saw her, I had been feeling ill and had been home not feeling good at all that previous week, and had been in bed most of the week. And I tried to read books, but I was just too tired and my brain wasn't working, and I kept sneezing and coughing through the reading of the books. And so I slept a lot. But then when I wasn't sleeping, I found on TV, here's my real confession, my true confession, Christmas in July Hallmark movies. Oh my gosh. And I said to her, the truth is, I find them delightful. Absolutely delightful. They're totally predictable, the plot line. I can even tell you, oh, they're going to fall in love with them, and then they're going to marry them, and oh, they're not going to really move away. They're beautiful because she said to me when I told her that, she said, "Oh yeah, you love Christmas, don't you?" And I was like, yes, I do love Christmas. And they're in these little beautiful Christmas towns that are just delightful. So I've been watching them. I recorded them, and then when I get a chance, I watched a few while I was not well. And since that time, as I've gotten a few moments alone, I've watched them, and they just make me smile, and I find them delightful. Now, they may not be your thing. I totally get it, because they are kind of cheesy. But what is your thing? What helps you feel happy? Is it going out in nature? Is it a good conversation with a friend or a loved one? Is it watching a great movie, reading a beautiful book? Is it just having a few moments to sit silently through the day? These things contribute to our happiness. And so today, as we're having this conversation about happiness, we're busting those myths. I'm inviting us to find appreciation and feel a greater sense of happiness. Claim your own happiness. Find things that make you happy. And this week, do at least one happy thing a day. If you're happy and you know it, you're doing what makes you happy.
And as I breathe into this peaceful, sacred moment, in these beautiful surroundings, I recognize and know the presence of God everywhere about. And what I know in this moment is that power and presence that I call God is fully supporting, fully sourcing, fully enveloping each and every being within the sound of my voice in a pure love and light, in a pure joy. So I know there is no needs that are not met, no support that is not freely given and freely received, no problem too big and no problem too small for the full attention and intention of this power and presence of God. I know that all is revealed and reviewed and made whole in this light and in this love. So it is with deep gratitude that I accept these truths. I accept them for myself and every other being. I'm grateful and thankful for the time, and I am grateful and thankful for the appearance of these truths in my life and in every other life. So I release my words into the law, knowing they are so, and so it is. Amen.